Hi, everybody. So I want to review an article that I posted on Substack. And the article is called Why Don't Vegans Know About Anti-Nutrients? If you're going to tell people to radically change their diet, you have a responsibility to understand what you're recommending. Those who tell people to go vegan should exercise basic due diligence, yet a surprising number of vocal vegan advocates promoting plant-based diets seem unaware of anti-nutrients, the compounds in plant foods that can interfere with nutrient absorption and cause serious health problems. This isn't about being anti-vegan, it's about accountability. When you encourage someone to eliminate entire food groups, you're taking on an advisory role that comes with obligations. The burden is on you to know what you're talking about, especially regarding the nutritional challenges inherent in the diet you're promoting. And by the way, a lot of them will say that veganism is not a diet, it's just an ethical stance. Yet, obviously, you can't go vegan and consume animal products. So, clearly it is a diet because if you go vegan, then your entire diet would be plant based. So I don't know how you can say that it's not a diet when it's a diet of elimination and a diet which is high in anti-nutrients. And for whatever reason, they think that going vegan is just about ethics, that it has nothing to do with health, that you should not consider your health whatsoever. You should just think about the animals and completely forget about your health. And again, a lot of them don't know anything about anti-nutrients. If you were to ask them about anti-nutrients, they would say that it's pseudoscience, that it's propaganda. Yet none of them have done any basic research or due diligence when it comes to anti-nutrients. What are anti-nutrients? Anti-nutrients are naturally occurring compounds in foods that interfere with absorption of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. Plants evolve these defensive chemicals to protect themselves from insects, animals, and environmental threats. Unfortunately, these same compounds can create problems for humans who consume them in large quantities. It's not about completely eliminating plants, it's about large quantities. If you're going to go plant based, you're consuming anti nutrients at a much higher degree than if you were an omnivore, especially lectins, because you're going to be replacing your animal products with legumes to get your protein. This article doesn't cover everything, but it really touches the surface. You guys are going to have to research anti-nutrients if you actually care about your health. Here's a critical point that many vegan advocates miss. A food can be rich in nutrients on paper, but deliver very little to your body in practice. This is a difference between nutrition uh, content and nutrition bioavailability. You can eat spinach loaded with iron and calcium, but if those minerals are bound up by oxalates and phytic acid, your body can't access them. The nutrition is technically there, but it's locked away and unusable. This is why looking at nutrition labels or databases without understanding anti nutrients gives a completely misleading picture of what you're actually getting from plant foods. The most common anti-nutrients include phytic acid. Found in grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, phytic acid binds to minerals. They bind to minerals like iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, making them unavailable for absorption. Oxalates, present in high concentrations in spinach, rhubarb, beet greens, Swiss chard, almonds, and many other plant foods. Oxalates bind with calcium and can form crystals that can contribute to kidney stones and may interfere with calcium absorption. Lectins, found in legumes, especially kidney beans. By the way, kidney beans are toxic if you don't prepare them properly, if they're not cooked to a sufficient high temperature, if you don't rinse them, very high in lectins, and it can actually be lethal. Grains, nightshade, vegetables. I've already talked about nightshades, how nightshades can cause you to get um, eczema. These proteins combine to the gut lining, potentially increasing intestinal permeability and interfering with nutrient absorption. Let me go back to the, which one was it? Okay, no, that's still lectins. I talked about lectins, and I talked about the link between a high lectin diet and rheumatoid arthritis, because lectins are highly inflammatory. They can lead to a leaky gut. Tannins, present in tea, coffee, wine, and some legumes. I'm going to say to a less degree than in wine, because of the fermentation process. The fermentation actually reduces the tannins. Tannins can reduce iron absorption and interfere with protein digestion. Actually, tannins have a lot more deleterious effects. It can actually prevent you from absorbing calcium and iron. Um, and I say this as someone who regularly consumes tannins, because I do drink tea and I drink coffee. I consume all of these anti-nutrients. And I do it just because for taste pleasure, which you guys say that taste pleasure is exclusive to an animal-based product. No, taste pleasure goes both ways, right? Because I've done a carnivore diet and it was very difficult, because most of my favorite foods were not animal-based. They were actually plant-based. I did it to cure my psoriasis, which I actually did. Um, but it was not easy. It's not easy to go on a vegan diet, nor is it easy to go on a carnivore diet. Any diet that is based on elimination is not going to be easy. But I guess because a lot of vegans never really liked meat in the first place, they were always grossed out by it. It's not really a sacrifice, because they prefer plant-based foods anyway. So you're telling people to go vegan like it's not a sacrifice. Aside from the, you really minimize the taste pleasure. It's really like a core part of your quality of life to have a decent meal. But aside from that, it's also important when it comes to nutrition, because animal-based products are the most bioavailable. So this is the reason why I say that just promoting veganism alone is insufficient. If you're going to tell people to make this extreme sacrifice, then what comes along with it as a corollary is abstention from procreation. Why would you create more human beings and tell them to negate their natural diet, the most healthy and bioavailable diet available? Why would you continue to create omnivores and then tell them to go against their nature? It makes no sense. I've done this whole article about the half-hearted aestheticism of veganism, because they don't really commit to aestheticism all the way. They go partially. They they start aestheticism when it comes to diet, but not when it comes to procreation. And this is a problem according to Nietzsche. Um, what did Nietzsche say about that? Anyway, you guys can go check out that live stream I did about Nietzsche, and how they basically want blood. They want life without blood. Um, it's completely unrealistic. It's fantastical. I understand that you care about animals, but your first priority should be to abstain from procreation, not to just go on a plant-based diet and continue to procreate. Saponins found in legumes, uh, quinoa, and some vegetables. These compounds can increase gut permeability. I'm talking about leaky gut, and may interfere with nutrient absorption. Goitrogens found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, soy products, and other plant foods. Goitrogens interfere with thyroid function by blocking iodine uptake, which is essential for thyroid hormone production. When consumed in large amounts, especially by people with inadequate iodine intake, goitrogens can contribute to hypothyroidism, thyroidism, and goiter, enlarged thyroid gland. How anti-nutrients affect your health. The primary concern of anti-nutrients is that they reduce the bioavailability of essential nutrients. This means that even if a food appears nutritious on paper, your body may not actually be able to access those nutrients. This is perhaps the most important concept in this entire discussion. There's a massive difference between nutrients being present in a food and those nutrients being bioavailable to your body. When vegan advocates point to the iron in beans or the calcium in kale, they're showing you the nutrient content, what's chemically present in the food, but they're not telling you about the nutrient bioavailability, how much your body can actually absorb and use. These are completely different measurements, and the gap between them can be enormous. Sorry that my voice is cracking. I'm sick and I'm trying to get through this. For example, spinach contains a decent amount of calcium on paper, but the oxalates and calcium bind to that calcium so effectively that you can absorb only about 5% of it. Compare that to milk, where you absorb about 30% of the calcium. To get the same bioavailable calcium from spinach as much as from 1 cup of milk, you need to eat roughly 16 cups of spinach. Suddenly, that calcium rich spinach doesn't look so impressive. The same principle applies across the board. Beans have iron, but that's non heme iron, less bioavailable than heme iron from meat, and is further blocked by phytic acid. The result, you might need to eat 5 to 10 times as much as plant-based iron, excuse me, to get the same amount your body can actually use. This isn't a minor detail, it's a central fact that makes plant-based nutrition so challenging. Now, obviously, you can take supplements, but that's a hardship in and of itself. Who wants to live the rest of their lives taking supplements? It's like you're being punished for something that you didn't even choose in the first place. You didn't choose to exist. You didn't choose to be an omnivore, and yet you're going to eat food which is nutritionally deficient, going to cause you health problems. Doesn't taste very good. It's going to cause a lot of time with meal prepping. I mean, of course, there's a little trick that I just learned recently about eating peanut butter sandwiches. But who wants to eat peanut butter for the rest of their lives? Like, and nutrition. I mean, peanut butter is full of which one was that I just mentioned? For some reason, I'm drawing a blank. It's full of lectins, right? So there really is no easy way around this. No matter what, if life is imposed on you, you are a natural omnivore. If you go vegan, then you're going to be compromising your health. If you don't go vegan, then you're harming animals. So there is no win in this situation. And there's no proof that going vegan necessarily decreases the demand for animal products, because while you are consuming a plant-based diet, that is being offset by the fact that there are more humans created at the same time. So there's more omnivores, and there's not. It's really a net positive for the animal consumption. So the primary concern, if you care about animals, should be reducing the human population, not just going vegan. But I'm not sure why they overlook this, because I don't know. I guess because going plant based is surface level. It's something that you can see. You can say, "Look at me, I'm vegan," even though I have created 3 children who are harming animals. Now, where was I? I think I just finished the. Okay, I just talked about iron. Mineral deficiency. Phytic acid is particularly problematic because it binds to minerals that are already difficult to obtain in adequate amounts on a plant based diet. Iron and zinc deficiencies are common among vegans, and phytic acid makes this worse by binding absorption of whatever plant based sources they do consume. The iron in spinach, for example, is largely unavailable due to both its non heme form and the presence of oxalates. Impaired protein digestions. Tannins and lectins can interfere with protein digestion and absorption. Since plant proteins are already less bioavailable than animal proteins, this creates a compounding problem for vegans trying to meet their protein needs. Digestive stress. Lectins and saponins can damage the intestinal lining, leading to inflammation, bloating, gas, and other digestive issues. Many people who switch to plant based diets experience ongoing digestive problems that they attribute to detoxing when they may actually be experiencing the effects of anti nutrients. By the way, when you become gassy because you're consuming a whole bunch of legumes, they say that that's healthy. That means that you have good gut flora. It does not mean that. What it means is that your body is actually rejecting the fact that you are consuming so many lectins. That's the reason why it's so painful. That's the reason why you are excreting all of this gas because you're not made to eat that. Your body is not designed to be consuming a high amount of lectins. So if you're gassy, that is an indication that you are consuming an unhealthy diet. Serious health consequences. The effects of anti-nutrients aren't just theoretical, they can lead to real health problems, especially plant-based foods, especially when plant-based foods become dietary staples. Kidney stones. Oxalates are a leading cause of kidney stones, accounting for about 80% of cases. When you consume high oxalate foods regularly, green smoothies with spinach, anyone, you're significantly increasing your risk. Vegans who consume large amounts of nuts, spinach, beet greens, and other high oxalate foods are particularly vulnerable. Some foods are more susceptible to oxalates due to genetic factors or gut bacteria composition, but few vegan advocates mention this risk. There's a difference between true nuts and then there are seeds like almonds, which are not actually true nuts. Again, this is just a cursory discussion about anti-nutrients. There are whole books written about this. There's published literature. I'm not going to go through all the detail of it because you need to exercise your due diligence. And if I spoon feed you, then you think that I'm just promoting propaganda. You need to actually learn this for yourself, and you need to actually learn why you're having some of these negative health consequences. Rheumatoid arthritis and joint pain. There's growing evidence that lectins may trigger autoimmune responses in susceptible individuals. Some researchers have linked lectin composition to rheumatoid arthritis and other inflammatory conditions. Oxalates can also deposit in joints, contributing to pain and inflammation. Many people report that their joint pain improves significantly after reducing high oxalate plant foods. Thyroid dysfunction, gorgogens, and glucosinolates and cruciferous vegetables can interfere with iodine absorption and thyroid hormone production. This is especially problematic because many vegans heavily rely on vegetables like kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage, and dietary staples. By the way, this is the reason why a lot of people can't lose weight. Um, when they're consuming a lot of kale and it's interfering with their thyroid function. And even though they think that they're eating healthy, they can't seem to lose the weight. It's because it's interfering with your iodine absorption. And you think you're just going to continue eating kale and cabbage and by the way, you're eating it raw, and you think that that is healthy. It is not. A lot of these anti-nutrients can be significantly reduced if they are prepared properly, but most people don't prepare them properly. Breast, when you eat these foods raw or in large quantities, think kale smoothies every morning, you're consuming significant amounts of goitrogens. For vegans who already have inadequate iodine intake, especially the best iodine sources are seafood and iodized salt. This creates a perfect storm for hypothyroidism. Symptoms include fatigue, weight gain, cold sensitivity, depression, and cognitive impairment. Soy products, another vegan staple, also contain goitrogens, compounding the problem. By the way, I'm not going to, again, this is very cursory. There's a body of evidence which shows that a vegan diet leads to depression because of the nutrient deficiencies, because of the hormone deficiencies. And so a lot of vegans do try to compensate for this by getting on antidepressants. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but you wouldn't need antidepressants if you were consuming a proper diet in the first place. Anemia and fatigue, the combination of low bioavailability of plant-based iron and the blocking effect of phytic acid and tannins means that vegans are at a high risk for iron deficiency anemia. This leads to fatigue, weakness, poor concentration, and compromised immune function. Osteoporosis, when phytic acid and oxalates bind calcium, and when protein intake is compromised by anti-nutrients, bone health suffers. Despite consuming calcium-rich plant foods, vegans may not be absorbing adequate calcium for bone maintenance. Zinc deficiency. Zinc is crucial for immune function, wound healing, and hundreds of enzymatic reactions. Phytic acid powerfully inhibits zinc absorption, and plant foods contain very little zinc to begin with. Zinc deficiency can lead to hair loss, skin problems, impaired immunity, and reproductive issues, which the reproductive issues probably is a good thing. But if you are going to consume a highly plant-based diet, you probably should be consuming the perennial plants, which I grow perennial plants, by the way, because unlike a lot of these vegans, I actually grow the plants that I consume, not completely, but I'm hoping to get there this year. I'm hoping to be completely self-sufficient to grow my own plants. But if you are going to eat a plant-based diet, you probably should be consuming more perennials than annuals, because perennials tend to have deeper tap roots and they're higher in minerals than annuals, because they're able to mine those minerals through their deep tap roots. If you're consuming a bunch of annuals, like, well, I would even say dinosaur kale. Dinosaur kale is an annual, but it has deeper tap roots than regular kale. Or you can eat, what is it? What do I have? I'm growing these these tree kale. Those have deeper tap roots than this an annual. Those are perennials. They're a lot healthier, but again, it still is about preparation. You need to prepare it properly. If you don't know what you're doing, then you're not doing it right. And you really should not be pushing an unhealthy diet. Even if you are going to go vegan, there is a healthy way to do it, but most of them don't exercise due diligence. They think that just because a diet is plant-based, it is ipso facto healthy. It is not. You need to do it the right way. And if you don't know what you're talking about, I have taken, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a nutrition expert. I have taken a nutrition class. So I do have a basic understanding of nutrition. Uh, I've taken chemistry, right? Not to, again, I'm not an expert, but I've taken, because I was considering going to nursing. So I took all of the pre-nursing courses. So I do have a basic understanding of science. I'm not anti-science. I think that what a lot of them are pushing is anti-science. Here's what bothers me most. The same people who will passionately lecture you about animal welfare often don't have basic nutritional often haven't done basic nutritional homework about the diet they're promoting. They'll share infographics about protein in beans without mentioning the protein is less bioavailable and accompanied by anti-nutrients that block mineral absorption. They'll recommend spinach for iron without acknowledging that you need to eat absurd quantities to match the bioavailable iron in a small serving of beef, and that the oxalates in spinach inhibit the already poor iron absorption. They're confusing what's in the food with what your body can actually use. This isn't semantic distinction. It's a difference between eating. It's a difference between appearing to meet your nutritional needs and actually meeting them. You can check all the boxes on a nutrition tracker app while your body is starving for bioavailable minerals. The nutrients are technically there in your body, but they're locked behind anti nutrient barriers your body can't break through. This isn't a minor oversight. When you tell someone to go vegan, you're asking them to eliminate the most nutrient dense, bioavailable food sources humans have consumed throughout our evolution. You're asking them to replace these with foods that contain compounds specifically designed to prevent nutrient absorption. That's a significant nutritional challenge, and it requires knowledge and careful planning. Vegans who advocate for their diet have a responsibility to understand that plant-based nutrients are generally less bioavailable than animal-based nutrients, know about anti-nutrients and how they affect absorption, educate people about the need for proper preparation methods, including soaking, sprouting, and fermenting that reduce anti-nutrient content, be honest about the supplements that are necessary, B12, and often iron, zinc, vitamin D, omega 3s, and others. By the way, there are no plant-based omega 3s. They're precursors. Um, they're not nearly they're not comparable. Like the LOAs. Anyway, I'm not going again. This is supposed to be cursory. I'm not going to go into detail. You guys are going to have to do your own research. Screen for individual susceptibility to problems like oxalate sensitivity. Again, oxalates can cause a lot of problems, hyperinflammatory, thyroid problem, uh, leaky gut, skin problems such as psoriasis, which is what I had, which is caused by a combination of the oxalates and the lectins. Monitor health markers and be willing to adjust the diet if problems arise. Instead, we often get oversimplified messaging. Plants have everything you need, or you can get all the nutrients from a very plant-based diet. These statements range from misleading to outright false, especially when anti-nutrients are taken into account. It's not anti-vegan to demand competence. Some will read this and accuse me of being anti-vegan. I'm not. Um, let me qualify that. It's not that I'm anti-vegan or not. I I care about human health. I do care about human welfare. Animal welfare is important, but at the same time, you have to address the root cause. Factory farming is a direct byproduct of human overpopulation. Because we have a population of 8.5 billion, now we need to overcompensate through factory farming, which is unethical. I understand you care about animal welfare, but why don't you care about your own health? Why don't you care about human welfare? Why are you still procreating while telling people to go vegan? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You're not an extinctionist. You're just trying to address symptoms. You're not addressing root causes. What I am is anti-ignorance, especially when that ignorance is dressed up as ethics and used to influence other people's health decisions. If you want to be vegan for ethical reasons, that's your choice. But if you're going to promote veganism to others, you have an obligation to understand nutritional biochemistry well enough to do it responsibly. You need to know about anti-nutrients. You need to understand bioavailability. You need to be honest about the challenges and the workarounds. The problem that many vocal vegan advocates don't know these basics is a problem. They're giving nutritional advice without nutritional knowledge, and people's health is suffering as a result. The internet is full of ex vegans sharing stories of deteriorating health, digestive problems, hormonal issues, and chronic fatigue. Problems that might have been avoided if they've been given accurate information from the start. Anti-nutrients are real, their effects are measurable, and they pose legitimate challenges for people eating plant-based or plant-heavy diets. This is established science, not animal agricultural uh, propaganda. Anyone promoting a vegan diet who doesn't understand anti-nutrients is like a financial advisor who doesn't understand compound interest. They're operating outside their competence and potentially causing real harm. Of course, they don't care about this harm, right? They don't care even when these people go ex-vegan and they tried it. they don't have any empathy whatsoever. They're just saying, "Oh, you were never vegan in the first place. Never mind the fact that you have suffered all of these negative impacts on your health. You just don't care about the animals, and you decided that you just want to be an animal abuser." This is how they pathologize everybody. And even if you are vegan, we within a vegan community, there is a hierarchy. It's not enough to just go plant-based. They're all trying to compete each other to outdo each other, talking about, oh, well, I am a frugivore, or I get enough protein. I consume a high amount of lectins and beans and nuts, and I'm a raw vegan, and it's so silly. It's going vegan is never going to be enough. It's a race to the bottom. No matter how vegan you are, there's still infighting. There's still competition about the right way to do it. So you can't win even if you do go vegan. If vegans want their nutritional advice to be taken seriously, they need to meet the same standard we expect from any health advisor, comprehensive knowledge and of the subject matter, including the challenges and limitations of the approach they're recommending. Anything less is irresponsible. By the way, they make constant appeals to authority. They always talk about the Academy of Dietetics. It's like they don't actually read the primary sources. What they do is they read the statements by secondary sources, and then they cite these secondary studies or secondary statements as evidence. That's not really how research works. And then they will turn around and say that anybody who rejects their secondary sources is anti-science. No, you're the one who's anti-science. Not only are you anti-science, you are anti-intellectual, and you're not willing to consider any alternative information. I'm not even going to say this is not alternative information. I think what they're espousing is alternative. This is standard science. This is standard nutrition. This is the basic food pyramid that everybody understands. What they're doing is something completely anti-science because their ethics override science. And so it's about the animals, but they don't even try to balance the animal. Because even if you are going to go vegan, you can do it in a healthy way, but they don't want to consider it because once the animals are saved, in theory, that's where their analysis stops, right? The animals are saved, but what about your health? What about the health of the people who you are telling to go vegan? Does that matter at all? No, it does not. The burden of proof is on those advocating for dietary change. If you're telling people to go vegan, make sure you actually know about nutrition to do it the right way, learn about anti-nutrients, understand bioavailability, be honest about the supplements needed and the foods that need to prepare carefully. Respect the complexity of human nutrition enough to study it before demanding that people go vegan. Don't assume that plant is healthy just because it's plant-based. Do your research. Now let me see if I have any. Well, yeah, thank you for being here. I did post the link if anybody wants to come up here because I'm open to be challenged, but I know that I'm right because I have already researched this thoroughly. Um, I would expect some type of pushback. I would expect somebody to tell me that I'm wrong. But of course, when I go live, all I get are a bunch of crickets. So here's your chance. If you think I'm full of shit, you can debate me right now. I'm not going to be on here very much longer because I do want to do another live stream later. But you are open to challenging me and telling me that I'm wrong. But I suspect that you probably haven't done your due diligence and you probably can't really go toe to toe with me on the science because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're focusing on ethics, you're focusing on animal welfare while neglecting the fact that you are a natural omnivore and unfortunately an omnivorous diet is your path of least resistance. You can go vegan all you want, but you need to know you need to know how to do it the proper way. There is a proper way to do it, and most vegans are doing it completely wrong. I don't think anybody's going to come up, which I'm not surprised at all. All right, I'm going to end this live stream because nobody's coming up to actually challenge me. I did post a link twice. Again, I'm going to be probably doing another live stream later today. So um, you can, I guess you're welcome to post a comment in the section. I mean, you can post a comment after I'm done with this live stream. But if you want a direct response, it's probably going to be best for you to do it now while I'm still here. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, y'all. Have a good day. If you want, you can go check out the original article. Do your own research about anti-nutrients because a plant-based diet, if it's not done properly, is not necessarily healthy. So that's the end of my live stream. Y'all have a good day.